starting, as someone who's starting off, let's say, does taking the game concept from concept on paper to applying it to Unity.
Okay.
You know, where should one start? I guess would be the best thing. So maybe like a simple just run through of.
Okay. Well, first, the design conversation that you've had, all of the design decisions that you've made so far, obviously aren't concrete because you haven't troubleshot them or you haven't tested them. So.
Yeah, I mean everything right now is in single-digit stages. So like even like damage is just simple ones and twos. I haven't, you know, I plan on changing that to some larger numbers to make it look better. But the basics is I just wanted something that I can easily do the math on right now.
Well, you think that, okay, but first, what is it that you're wanting to do? What is it that you're wanting the players to do? Always is the first question that
Yes.
you need to answer.
The players are attacking each other, and they're basically building a kata. Like that's.
Okay, you've done. I actually am kind of quite proud of the whole Gators thing. It's very simple. It's not about any of the story. It's not about any of the graphics. It's about what objects you need, what goals you want the players to do, what rules there are, what actions are definitely the core of your game.
Right.
It's definitely a pragmatic approach to talking about your current design rather than talking about design in general. You're not talking about the objectives of the particular action per se. You're talking about the objectives of the game. So, what are the goals of your game? What are the actions that you do? What are the rules for those actions? What are the transitions for those for the players? What are the objects that are available?
Okay.
The setup and that part of setup, that is literally something that you start doing in Unity. That's something, or in whatever platform you're using.
Okay.
As a card game, at first the setup would be how do you place your cards? How many cards can a player hold? How many cards are players given? Those are now we're talking about playing the game.
Okay.
Because that is the initial part of that.
Okay.
After that is when you start to play test your game, design, and implement your components.
So, the player's hand is 7 cards.
You're telling me the setup. Let's not talk about that yet.
Okay. Where do you want to start?
What does the player do always?
What does the player do? Okay. The player is laying down cards to attack the opponent.
Okay. Placing down cards represents an attack.
Yes.
And another player can also, at that moment,
counter or defend himself against the attack.
Right. Okay. Do players select from the cards that they're going to attack with?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another thing. Players select the card, right? They don't place it down. You may have said that, but they select a card, they place it down. Another player, understanding what that moment is going to counterattack, I guess, or defend.
Yes.
Okay.
If they have cards available.
If they have cards. How do they acquire cards? What do they do to acquire cards?
The basic form was that I was going to allow all the available cards available, and then they could just make the deck how they wanted to, up to 50 cards, or are in a single person's deck.
Okay.
And that is out of 200 different types of cards.
Okay. What is this game? Now I'm going to ask you a little bit further up because now I'm starting to detect some similarities to other. If that's what they do, that's what other games do. You're not describing me your game. You're describing me all games that do this. So
Well, some basics are going to be similar because it's a card game.
Well, not all card games work that way.
True.
I play solitaire. I place down cards. I'm not attacking anyone.
Right.
I'm not defending from the game either. I play blackjack. I'm not defending either. You know? that I'm receiving cards instead of selecting cards. Poker, the same thing. I may have a deck of cards here, but I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You know, if that were a tell.
Right.
So that's let's not just call cards a platform. Don't call card games just run of the mill. Everything happens the same. Obviously, you do have cards, but some card games are not played with the face of the card necessarily.
Correct.
So, what is your game about?
Okay. Okay. Part of the I have my whiteboards over there, and it's got my stuff on it, so I'll just have to do it here. So the play area, I guess, would be the best way to start describing this.
Okay.
So you have your hand of 7. Okay. Well, what I haven't said yet is that the only way you have on, like, if you have the edge of your tables in front of you, on the front of your table, right up against where you are, you have a spot for 10 cards. Okay. Those 10 cards can only be placed there if they're defense or counter cards. And this is where you activate your defense or counter cards.
Okay.
So your attack cards are only the ones that stay in your hand.
The attack cards are the ones that you have in your hand.
They are in your hand, but if you draw a card, and it's a defense or counter card, and you have a spot down on the board for one of those, you can put it there. But only attacking or only defense and counter cards can be played from the board. They can't be played from the hand.
Okay, so then what the players are doing are managing certain slots.
Yes.
That represent what they are able to
do.
To whether attack or defend. Well, they can only attack from what's on their hand.
Yes.
They manage their attacks from what they keep private, and they manage their defense from what they keep public or imperfect information.
Right.
Okay. So players are managing their inventory.
Exactly.
Okay, that's another thing that players do. Okay. Players manage their inventory of cards. Okay. There are 2 separate areas that players manage. One which is not known to other players, one which is known to all players.
Okay.
And players go from transitions of, is it a turn-based? Is it something that, okay, it's not all players at all times.
Correct, even though that the defender can actually damage the player on his defense turn.
Okay, so now let's go into each card, what they do. What does each card do differently? Some of them are labeled clearly defense.
Some are labeled clearly defense, which only prevents damage.
Okay. Others counters. Counters can stop combos or provide, even though you take damage, they in turn give damage to the attacker. Okay, so they're hybrid. They're attack and defense.
Yes. I'm trying to take a martial arts duel and apply it to.
That's good, but that's where it needs to get contextualized.
Yes.
So, okay. So, and then there are some that are only attack.
Yes.
So then that's this board sucks. I don't know.
You need some that spray stuff.
Yeah, but it didn't work. I tried the spray stuff, and I guess I don't have the napkins for it or whatever. I'll just use this one. So you have attack, defend, and then this here.
Yeah, counter.
Okay.
Now there's one more card, but it's kind of a global. It's kind of affects on a global scale type of deal, and that's the avatar card.
What does that do?
That's like that represents the type of style of combat that the person is proficient in.
What does the style do?
It can one increases the amount of damage one does in combat. One can increase the amount of defense that can be occurred. So it's kind of like a buff that is applied to the entire field for yourself for the entire combat sequence.
Okay, so then there's this other thing here that modifies.
That modifies the rest of it, yes.
Okay. What else?
As of right now, 20 hit points per player, or health.
Okay, there's quote unquote health component.
Yeah.
Modifier. Attack. I guess this is attack. Defense. Okay, what else?
Do you want me to go into detail of the difference in the attack cards? Because they're
I want the major differences. There's a defend attack, there's the defense card, there's a attack card, there's a modifier to either or both or whatever, and if it's both, then you might as well have everything always be both.
No, it's not always both. It's like I said, it's specific to one specific category.
Health, which is a counter, which is a number.
It's a counter.
It's not hash health, but
yeah.
number health. There's a number to these as well. I guess from the pool. What else? What I'm looking for the categories of things that players interact with.
Okay, well then there's 2 players.
Oh, only 2 players?
Right now, only 2 players.
Okay, then there's
it's a one-on-one thing.
Okay, and we can do this. And they're all. Okay. There's not one thing that modifies for both, right? These are kept separate.
Those are separate, yes.
Okay.
So it's only modifying that person's particular stuff.
Okay. So and then through these, I guess these 2 interact. Through these. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anything else? Any way to add health to me?
No adding health. Like I said, for right now, that's out of the board. I didn't want to add something that could draw this out to longer than.
Okay. And then there's also 2 areas, right, for each player. There is the I guess the table. And then the hand. Okay. Put a nice jar here. There you go.
Yes. So the hand is 7.
Actually.
For right now.
One half. They're facing each other. Okay, the hand is 7, and this here is 10.
Yep.
Okay. And this here is 20. It's 20. 20 down. Anything else?
I do not believe so. That got that. And the only thing that I don't see on the thing would be the counter, even though I guess that's the crossover
Yeah.
between. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page on that one. Well, then you have the deck. Still
Yeah.
have the deck.
This represents that.
Okay, that represents the deck. Okay,
You maximum 50 cards.
maximum 50 cards.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if this goes in this section or not. This might go in a separate section. Well, no, since that is the deck we are talking about. Duplicates, no more than 5, are allowed in the deck.
Okay. What's up?
I think it's just saying that Doug is now on your team, and you and yourself for a double behind you.
Okay.
But the three of you will be working together as a team.
Thank you. So, no duplicates.
No duplicates. Well, no, you're allowed to have 5 duplicates.
No
More than 5.
5 duplicates.
Then 5 duplicates. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so far this is magic.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, so far this is magic.
Okay.
Except, well, so far this is Hearthstone.
I don't know what that is.
The Blizzard game that just came out, card game that came out just recently.
Oh.
It's for the computer.
All right.
And it's sort of the same thing. You have the avatar that modifies the attacks and whatever. You only have a certain number of mana that you can manage. Not see, the thing about it is that you have on hand and what's on the board. Same thing. So this is a style of game. Okay.
Right.
This is obviously something that's a style. So what players take turns doing these things. What's the purpose of them? What's their goal? What are the goals on this?
To build a style of combat, basically. Like there is no like quote unquote style. There's no like there isn't there isn't Hapkido and there isn't kickboxing. There's just different types of attacks or defenses or counters. So the player could intentionally build an entire deck of defense cards.
Okay, but how? Okay.
Or an entire deck of counter.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said like this is kind of just what I'm trying to see what will work in the long run is if you gave the player the option of a bunch of different actions that can be performed in a combat scenario. How would they take those actions and apply them into their own style?
Yeah, well, but it's in that way it's no different. Okay, but you're trying to represent something larger here. And that's where I think this is failing. You're not connecting what theme in other words, the mechanic is overriding any possibility of a theme.
Okay.
The mechanic right now is saying, take any defense card, which is something that is a positive number, and take this is a negative number. And when these two collide, the resulting equation is going to give me something to apply to health. So in other words, in my turn, HP equals attack card plus defense card, their attack card plus my defense card. Actually, it would be a sub 2, a defense card sub 1.
Okay.
Right? Plus the modifier. And the modifier for 1, actually, it would be, no, it would be like this. That equation right now is like this. HP equals mod M attack 2 plus MD1 and when does the attack end?
Well, that's the thing, because depending on which attack cards you have, that equation could go on for a while, because of the certain cards have can be stacked on top of, that can be comboed onto.
Right, but I can always say attack equals a series, like a number of.
Oh, okay, I get what you're asking. All right.
Attack a dot 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 attack cards I have. Nothing of this is interrupting the other.
Right.
It's not. I can grab all my cards, put them together. You can grab all your cards, put them together, and that's it. So right now, the equation for this is just, it's math. It's purely, there's no style here. There can't be any style. Let me put it to you this way.
I hear you. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because in my head I know what I'm trying to do. And
I know what you're trying to do. I'm just saying that what you have done so far is not doing what you want to do. There is a separate, I don't want to say a disconnect. That sounds like just lame English. I think there is a gap.
Okay.
A gap between the idea that you want to have and the system and the mechanic that you are hoping expresses that idea.
Originally, what I was trying to go for was like a free-form. Like if this was a 3D game, it would be a free-form fighting game where you get to decide what type of attacks you actually get to use and what kind of counters you get to use, that kind of thing, as a player, opposed to saying, well, here's how the person actually attacks. I wanted to give the player a chance to decide how he would actually attack, or how she would actually attack, or, you know, if they would actually attack.
Sure.
You know.
But I have an idea for you, but I don't. Maybe I can lead you to it. I don't want to just say it because it's not my game.
Right.
It's very easy to be creative on somebody else's initial idea, and I don't want to do that. But in other words, you've already given me a constraint to get away from. I don't want to just do that. So let me give you an example. And the thing that you're trying to do with where you were thinking about the free-form fighting game, well, There's nothing in any sport that says that you can't fight like this.
Well, that's what I mean. That's literally what I'm trying to get at. I mean, I've been in a bunch of sparring matches where you're fighting someone who's purely defensive. They're waiting for an action from you before they do anything.
But the thing is that this is exactly that.
Oh, okay.
This is 1 plus minus 1.
Right.
0. That's what it is. If I have plus 5, then you have to have minus 6. That's the equation is solved. It's solved. It's at every single moment. Your strategy is going to be solved by my counter strategy, which is I see that you have plus 5. I had better have minus 6 on my cards. Done.
Okay.
Nothing original can happen out of that fight or that exchange. Because let's not talk about it as fights. Let's talk about it the exchange of this number minus that number, which is exactly what this is. This is like, well, you have this and I have this. Whatever it is that you have, I can just think of doing something counter to it. I'll give you I'm not a mathematician, so it's just always funny to watch me try to have math. But there is something cool about numbers, okay? And the fact is that numbers have distinctions between them, okay? 1 is a very useful unit, okay? 1 is always multiplied to any number. That's part of to n. It's 1 in the set of multiplication is everywhere.
Gotcha.
Okay? All actually would be all real numbers, all natural numbers, all cardinal numbers. 1 applies in multiplication to all the sets, right? Now, that's bad math written down, but that's how I know that. 2 isn't multiplied to every number.
Right.
2 is a different number. So is theoretically or technically 3 and every other number, but especially 2 is a very different type of number than 1 when it comes to multiplication.
Right.
So we're basically talking about the operations. We're talking about this operation right here, which is multiplication. As multiplication goes, there are 3 numbers that are very, well, let's talk about 4 different numbers. 0, anything between 0 and 1, including 1.
Okay.
Okay? And I guess the union of any number starting from 1, dot, 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 infinity. These are the ranges of numbers that you have.
Gotcha.
0. Anything between 0 and 1 is another thing. And the union of all these other numbers.
Okay.
But they're basically A, B, 1, and C. Actually,
Right.
including infinity because that would be a 4th number. Okay? That's how we're doing this. That's the little math that I remember. These are the 4 different types of numbers. You have 4 different types of numbers. But then you have other numbers that are included between these numbers and these here, right here. And also, we have to include the negative version of these numbers. Okay?
Okay.
So that's a total of 8. That's pretty cool. We've just increased by many orders of magnitude, 2 orders of magnitude.
Okay.
Almost. From 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. Cool. Now, technically, we have those 2 separate numbers represented, two separate ranges represented here. But there are other numbers. There are the irrational numbers,
Right.
which is like pi or like e or like phi. All these other numbers that represent quantities that are very unique in the way that they are able to be represented. Okay?
Okay.
If I added 1 plus phi, I'm going to get 4.141592, whatever. Right?
Right.
If I add 1 plus 3, I'm going to get 4. These may be similar, but they are not telling me that something happened with pi.
Okay.
This is a marker. This is a fingerprint of something that happened.
All right.
So we're basically saying, give fingerprints to all the numbers that you have in there. And that way, players will have to deal with those differences.
So it doesn't turn out even.
So it doesn't turn out exact every single time.
Right.
If I said, what's the result of that fight? Well, 3. Well, that's boring. That's 1 plus 1 plus 1. Or
Right.
6 minus 2. But if I say that it's 3.14, it's like, oh, you just used pi. There's no other way of getting there. Or if you got to that one, you had to have, at some point, someone threw pi. Sounds funny, because there would be a food fight at that point, right?
Yeah.
But there are other numbers. There's natural numbers. There's half. There are subsequent numbers that you can choose that are in either this range or that range.
Right. Right. I'm seeing what I think what you're trying to get at. So. Going with that whole fingerprint thing. So what if the attack cards was one type of fingerprint, the defense cards was another fingerprint, and the combo cards was in itself its own separate thing, I guess, if we're going with fingerprints. So you have 3 separate fingerprints so that no matter what you're doing, there's no easy way to nullify or supersede an action.
Sure.
Is that what is that?
Yeah, yeah. You can. There's no easy way to nullify, but I'm thinking that out of these two, what you're really wanting is counterbalance, right? You're wanting this to be even, because if I have the perfect attack and you have the perfect defense, nobody did anything to another, right?
Right. But oh wait. So what if you tied in something along the lines of you can't throw a defense card without throwing a counter card first, like a mechanical type of thing? Would that also help? Like make it like a if this but before that.
I think the major thing there would be to say that what attack is it? Is there a kind of attack that cannot be countered by this other defense? If I throw
okay, a haymaker.
1.1 punch, and kicks are always 1.2, then I'm always going to end up with an odd number.
Gotcha.
So, that's the difference between numbers. You're trying to play with that difference so that, hey, you can only nullify my odd numbers with odd numbers.
Right.
You cannot nullify them with even numbers because you're going to get odd numbers, which is a rule of math. Right?
Right.
So then you're wanting to give these distinctions to, let's say that I have all my punches are 1.1, 1.1, or anything that's 1 point and an odd number. And all the kicks are 1 point and an even number.
Okay.
If I start with a punch, and you say that my defense is, I'm going to throw a defense that it has to be an odd number at the end. So I'm going to throw a punch, 1.1, and a kick, 1.2. It ends up being a 2.3, or let's say there's just 1 to even it out. A 1
Right.
and a 2.
What about exponents?
Uh,
What, like, because I'm trying to take what you've been saying about having the uniqueness of the number. So what if it was something along the lines of, because the first attack does this, the second attack's going to do slightly more, so you have an exponent kind of a deal attached to it.
That's sweet. That's good.
So like
That means that yes, the number of things that you do are now different than the one thing that you do multiplied.
right.
So yes, that's good. That's thinking. See, the only reason I'm asking you to think with this math is because right now all it is a quantity versus another quantity, not what kind of a quantity.
Right.
Plus what versus what other kind of. We are in a fighting game. We're wanting to add apples to oranges.
Right.
We're trying to say, look, 2 apples, 3 oranges are way better than 2 bananas and a cherry.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're definitely trying to break it down to, but not to a whole bundle of grapes. You know, that's absolutely something else. That represents a certain quantity. Are we adding mass? Maybe.
It could be a lot of damage, but in all honesty, it's repetition, so the person has a higher chance of deflecting it.
Yeah, and you're also wanting to say how many. What is an exchange? What is a turn?
Right. So I need to define a turn.
I say that there's something here in the fight, how you're setting it up, that is like, well, my turn, I'm going to open the attack. Is this like Bushido, where a person is like, you do the attack and I defend, and then the other person has to do the attack or something like that? I don't know that Bushido works that way, but
It's traditional. I believe traditional Bushido is the attacker gets 3 strikes, and then defender has to defend against all 3. Then it resets, and
right.
the defender is now the attacker, and he gets.
Okay. So do you see how? Yeah. Well, then, if I'm thinking correctly, then hooray me! This is representative of that because you're asking for them to go in order.
Right.
You're asking for them to do an amount of attack versus an amount of defense that is visible to me and all that. But the combo that I have here doesn't represent anything, doesn't make anything special.
Okay.
Now, if you were to say, like, I'm just riffing off of your exponential thing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Let's say that you have the row of things that you have to defend, and you put this sort of like bits. Here you have the 0, 1, or the exponential. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay?
Right.
8 different positions. If I put a 2 here, I'm going to get a 1.
Right, because I like. Okay.
If I put a 2 here, I'm going to get a 2. If I put a 4, basically bits.
I get what you're. Okay.
But if I put a 1 here, I'm going to get a 1.
Right.
If I get a 1, put a 1 here, I'm going to get a 1. Doesn't matter what I put in there.
It's going to be 1.
It's going to be 1. If I put a 3,
it's 9.
Yes, it changes the number, changes the amount that I have.
Changes
but
the dynamic.
If I can only put 5 cards, now that may be very convoluted to calculate.
Well, not exactly, because now we can add something else to it. That if I take the defense card at the 4 position, okay, and let's say it's 2, so that's
16.
16.
Yeah.
So now my defense is 16, but I take out all the cards after that also for that 116. So now the defense is 16, but I've used up all of my defense to get that 16.
Sure, but now this is sounding. If you're keeping ripping on this, it's sounding more and more like a math game, and is still your 16 versus my 12.
Right, right.
So that's something that what you're wanting basically here to do is like, this is Tiger style.
Right.
One over here, I occupied this one. It means you maybe you have to attack me here, but this is like this claw, like that, and
Gotcha.
this claw to my, you know, like whatever. Yeah. If you're doing like the Three Stooges, so that would have to represent the hand that you're doing.
Oh, so okay, so it kind of like you have different hands in poker. You can have different hands that represent a number.
Sure.
Or whatever the.
Or what if you have your hand, and this is in order to reduce the complexity of choice.
Right.
The players will think so much that it won't be like a fighting style.
Right.
And it'll be much more like, what's the equation that I'm solving? What's the equation that I'm solving? You don't want that.
Right.
If I'm Bruce Lee, which I am,
okay,
and I am going to fight you, I am going to beat you, destroy you, because my way is no way.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that your way isn't defined. Doesn't mean that your strategy isn't a strategy. Let's say that you have, instead of 8, you add 2 more, you have 10. And you can only place 5 cards that are in your hand and 5 cards that are on the board that you keep moving around. This is sort of like, switching it over from an exponential thing to a roulette-based thing, where you have red slots and black slots. Okay?
Yeah.
You see that? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am. I get you.
So, if you were to say, you can place them wherever you want. In my style, I'm going to put all the reds together. And all the blacks or whites here together.
Gotcha.
Okay? In your style, you're going to, in your style, which could be something that you select at the beginning of the game, you have these here as black.
Okay.
How do these two match up? Let's say that you had something in the order in which they're placed. You can put all these together. Or you say, my style is mostly attack. I am going to sacrifice, I'm going to paint this one even more. 6 attacks, or it's actually, this would be, blacks are defend and reds are attack. I have 4 spots for attacking.
Right.
I can only play with that. But what I do is that maybe I do have exponential or things that multiply here. Or maybe the modifier, that's how it does. Whatever is contiguous is going to gain a benefit. And I can do, and all my combos are going to come out in defend, attack, attack, attack. super defend, attack, defend. And yours are always gonna come like a super attack and then a defend.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is more representative of the ideas of style than exchanging numbers. Because it is what I do versus what you do. How I like to do things versus how you like to do things. How you organize this is where you go and design your stuff.
Gotcha. No, it's very true to what I was trying to get at, but I wasn't really sure how to get to it.
Okay, remember, the other thing that I'm trying to help you avoid is that it's not this one versus that one versus that one, because then that's just a similar thing as a term.
Yeah, it's still numbers versus numbers.
Think of it as a fingerprint, think of it as a barcode, think of it as something that, a wave, two waves that clash, two fighters that play. Is there a style to this? Is it going to be every turn I can change whatever I want? Let's say that if you have only 7 and you have 10,
yeah,
and every turn I can change whatever I want here, which is representative of a style that has no style.
Right.
Or if you have a very formal, I'm karate, I'm going to approach to you that way. Or if I am a boxer, which is I'm going to keep moving.
Right.
What's the how is that style incorporated in it? If you looked at the way that they incorporated the Mii's in Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U.
Okay.
It's interesting because they're wanting you to put yourself in there. You already did the visual side of things, but the game doesn't know what style of fighter you are. It can't. Maybe it could make an assumption. Maybe it could ask you very peculiar type of things. But no, I said there are 3 classes. That's where classes come in.
Right.
Classes are like reduce the complexity of nuance and say this one, that one, or that one. The tank, the medic, or the spellcaster, or whatever.
Gotcha.
Right? It makes those assumptions. In your game, you could be saying there are certain styles that this is mostly that this allows easily to perceive. First, the style of game in which it's like Bushido, which is we're going to flip a coin who goes first, and you go attack. You do your attack, and then it's a formal.
It's a formal duel.
What?
Duel.
Yeah, duel. State response. Response, right? Or is it both players at the same time reveal what they have intended? Or is it something that players maybe negotiate or gamble on?
Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about, and it's helping because, like I said, I've kind of I knew what I was trying to aim for, but I wasn't sure how to get there.
Think of whenever you're thinking of the theme that you have, it should guide the decisions and the actions that you incorporate here. If a player is going to attack, is it just attack? For instance, when we're breaking down Marco Polo or any other game like that, one of the actions is yell Marco. Another action is yell Polo. The action is not yell.
Right.
The action is yell what? Because it's a distinct action.
Right.
On this one, you are saying attack. When you had it like this, attack or defend.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get a style if it's just
Yeah.
like that? That's where I started to then think, well, this is a +1, this is a -1. A +1 is going to get me to 2, and it's going to get me to 4, and it's going to get me to infinity. just breaking it down by one, but that's boring.
Right.
What if you have this is the weird thing. You got to think of numbers as not the labels that they are, but as quantities, as I don't know, colors, as anything else, because you're going to be using the idea of numbers and letters, by the way, or digits, or states, or whatever it is that you can qualify the world.
Right.
Okay? Whatever qualifiers are there, you're going to be using them, and you're going to need distinctions between those qualifiers. So, the set of numbers, of odd numbers, are just as large as a set of all numbers. Because even though if you were to limit that set from 1 to 10, there are half as many numbers as 10 numbers, as odd numbers as 10 numbers, right?
Right.
But not in infinity. In infinity, there are infinite odd numbers and there are infinite all numbers.
Right.
But the idea of an odd number is a different thing than an even number. That's a thing to think about. There are an infinite number of irrational numbers. That we know of, there are not that we've found, or actually, sorry, it's of prime numbers. There are an infinite number of prime numbers.
Right.
But that we've been able to find, I don't know if it was 2,000 last time people counted. There's only 2,000 prime numbers that people have found, even though it is provable that there are infinite prime numbers.
Right.
So how do you conceive of that? Think of prime numbers, odd numbers, even numbers, irrational numbers, fractional numbers. Already 5 different qualifiers. No different than a punch, kick, headbutt, elbow, knee, right?
Right. I just thought of something, and I want to run this by you a little bit here. And it goes back to having a fingerprint, because originally, going back a few years, I was trying to come up with a concept similar to this. This was kind of so instead of having a straight like you have right now with the cards, what if you made it up into a shape? So you have 3 lines, and then you could have any number of cards in those lines up to 10. So now you have a shape at the end of this that is made up of 10 cards, and it can look like, you know, an E or an F, or you get what I'm saying? And then you match that up with the other person's. You get what I'm saying?
The only reason that would be what you want is ease of communicating what it is that you're doing.
Right.
Okay? You want to say this is Wing Chun. You want to say this is Aikido.
Yeah.
Or Shaolin Tsukenpo, or whatever, right? Hapkido, doesn't matter.
Right.
You want to say that this is like that because what does Wing Chun, a person that knows what Wing Chun does, how would they set this up?
Right.
You want a person to be able to perceive it if they played it.
Right.
Or solve it as they play it. It's never going to guarantee that one's better than the other, and this is never going to be representative of Aikido or any particular type of martial art.
Right.
But it might give the sense of the style of it. That's all you want. Making the shape is good, so long as the shape matters.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
Yeah.
You're giving me a lot to work on. So.
This is your thing.
Right. No. That's what it's turned into now.
No. This is your. You said you had 10 different spaces, right?
Right. Yeah.
All I wanted to do was show you how the spaces can mean something different.
No, and I
represent something different.
didn't think of it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
I just thought of it as a placeholder.
Yeah. Placeholders are look at what I have.
Yeah.
So, and you have your hidden cards here.
Right.
Maybe this is what you end up thinking of: defense and attack, as in how and when they come in. You can say they're all there, and you're gonna place them together here and break them up like so.
Right.
So this kind of game is still something I've seen before, which I don't dislike. I think that I think what you're wanting to do is maybe the modifier is something that you think of with the shape of this. Maybe the order matters. If it goes from left to right, right to left, maybe that matters.
Okay.
Maybe it's a matter of playing real close together. And I have these, and you just put them together, and whatever is, and you just push them down, and like this one over that one wins, or whatever.
No, I get what you're saying.
There are so many things to play. I'm going to tell you what I was thinking about earlier, which is something that you're thinking very much with this here.
Right.
And I'm helping you think with the thing that you did, or these ideas here. But I'm also going to offer that you still have another person's body in front of you.
Right.
Okay? You're thinking cards that are simple. What if it was Post-it notes? Something that sticks. And here's my attack, and the attack is on the shoulder, the attack, and I have another one on my hand, and I'm playing with the things that I have on my body. This is a kooky and weird idea.
Okay.
It is about the body and fighting.
Right.
Bringing it to that. If I said this here, and this one said attack, guess what I'm going to attack you with?
Your head.
My head. So what does the head mean in this game?
No, one of my renditions of this is actually having a mannequin style thing, and then determining where the attacks are going or where the attacks are coming from. But then I felt like it was getting way too complex for.
Sure, but think about it. Same as we started with a very simple, very generic thing.
Yeah.
We can make it complex or give it nuance or style or flair. We can walk it through different idea spaces, design spaces.
Right.
This one is easy to walk through a mathematical space because that's what the exchange is.
Right. So if instead of just keeping the whole idea of the barcode type of deal, so now instead of just a flat barcode, we have a barcode that represents different points of the body.
Sure.
So if.
Yeah, look at you smirk. Right. Look at you smirk. That's.
I hit a dead end, and I was like this. It was like this. It was too simple. It was too ones and twos, and I was like, how do I get out of this rut that I'm in of looking at everything too logically?
Yeah.
Because a fight's not logical. A fight is, you occasionally take a hit while delivering a hit.
Exactly. So, see, that's why the theme matters. That's why you can do things purely mechanical, and this is purely mechanical, and in the end, it can be seen logically purely mechanical. But what works in how things interact or how things collide is guided by an idea. And that idea could be perceivable from the mechanics. A person could see this and go like, I play this and I feel as if it were an actual two people fighting.
Right.
Even if you don't call anything an attack, you don't call a defend. You say call everything an exchange. You call everything mathematical. You say things like exchange number 1, combine resources. If you keep it very sterile, and a person could still perceive out of it a fight, that is ideal. You don't want to use, oh, it's a fight now because it's got a glove on it. It's like, it's no difference. It's pointless. So go with that, okay?
Right elbow to head.
I don't know. It could be you know, very physical thing that you put on there. It could be, you could have one of those little mannequins like you were talking about, and put little cards on the mannequin.
Right.
And that's where it could be convoluted to do so. If it eases the exchange, good. If it's too contrived, bad.
Right.
Okay? If it's too contrived, go back to this. This is done. This
right.
Whatever. You know, you can call this the middle part, the torso, extremities, whatever.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Is like it's that fingerprint that you kept on.
Yeah. Barcode, nuance. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
What is unique? What is a qualifier? What are the distinct actions, flavors, smells, colors, identities, names, labels that you're labels? I'm not just meaning just label. Name, meaning that you're adding into.
Oh, so you're a style that uses a sword, and I just kicked at you. This isn't going to end well.
Yeah, right.
You know.
So, yes, that's what I want you to play with, okay?
Okay.
Go with that and report back to me whenever you can.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome, and
I'll
spread the
see you
word.
probably tomorrow night then.
And anytime you see me on Skype, fair game. If you want, again, I told you, call the extension 8925.
Yep.
And it'll reach me.
Will do.
All right. See you, Jared.
See ya.